God bless each of you. Welcome to the dwelling place. This is Evangelist George J. Roberson. I greet you in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I'm indeed excited tonight to welcome each of you that are joining from Facebook as well as YouTube. This series has been such an awesome series for the fall collection. We started out this month with self therapy, supercharge yourself, and what a blessing. And tonight, we have an amazing, distinguished moderator as well as a distinguished panel. And our subject matter is back to school with school officials talking about how we can achieve school success and excellence working together. Well, working together with school officials like our mental health therapists, our teachers, as well as school psychologists, psychiatrists in our community. And tonight, our panel represent even people as well as pastors and ministers of the gospel. What I want you to do before I turn it over to the moderator, I want to make sure you tag someone right now to let them know you need to tune in. Make sure you tag someone to say, this is for you. You know someone that has a young person or a young mother or a young father that's coming up, and this will be a blessing unto them. So before I turn it over to this distinguished moderator, and I'm so thankful to have Pastor Kareem Bowen out of the city of Saginaw, Michigan. Well, tonight I'm going to turn it over to him, and I'm going to let him be the moderator and really host this session. He does a phenomenal job. You all, I hope he would take 1 minute and tell you where you can tune in weekly to hear him moderate on. I don't have the information in front of me, but I'm sure it will. He has my permission to do that because I want you to be informed and follow this young man. And tonight, I'm certain he's going to do an excellent job. God bless each of you. Won't you remember to tag and share? And he's going to give you the format. And I'm going to right now, want you welcome our moderator, Kareem Bowen. God bless you, Kareem. Thank you for accepting this invitation.
Thank you so much, Evangelist Roberson. As she noted, I am Pastor Kareem Bowen of the Potter's Church International Ministries here in the great city of Saginaw. In addition to that, I also host 2 radio programs. The one that I believe she's referring to is Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen, which airs on KISS 107 FM WTLZ, and it airs every single Sunday night, 6 p.m. live. We talk about everything from Wall Street to Main Street. We give it to you straight, no chaser, and no filter. So on tonight, I'm excited to be with you all. We're excited. School is underway. We're back to school. And today we're going to talk about parent and student empowerment. Everyone knows that to achieve excellence academically, it requires educational goals and a team of people and professionals, educators and clinicians to help us to achieve these goals. And it also includes you, the parent and the students. Well, tonight's purpose is for us to begin a conversation with the perspective we must work together throughout the school year to achieve our children's educational goals. This panel that has been assembled with us here today is aware of the relevant issues facing our urban students in the school districts across the country. They will begin with a brief introduction and share their focal areas for their back to school empowerment working together to achieve excellence. So we want to welcome this panel of esteemed guests that are here with us on today. And I just want to start with Miss Angela Hook, if you would begin your brief introduction.
Thank you. And hello, everyone. My name is Angela Hook, and I am the Chief Executive Officer for Private Practice Boutique, where we provide evidence-based mental health awareness and self-care strategies. I'm also a licensed, limited license professional counselor and a certified grief professional. I also work for the Ingham Intermediate School District. I'm working with children kindergarten through 12th grade, and also I work along with parents. So I'm excited to be a part of this panel. Thank you.
Dr. Watson, if you'd like to go next, that'd be great.
Thank you, and good evening. Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Tina Watson, and I'm truly grateful to have you all here today. Just a little bit about me. I've been happily married for 36 years and blessed with 3 wonderful married children, also a proud grandma. And our family will be expanding 2 more expected in November and January. And I've just had the privilege also of fostering African American teens for over 12 years. My passion professionally has spanned over 25 years, beginning as a K-8 certified teacher. And I've spent more than 15 years in lower elementary as a classroom teacher, where I truly believe in the adage that everything a person ever needs to know, they learn in kindergarten. Moving from the classroom, I moved into central office position as the induction program coordinator, which allowed me to serve new teachers for 7 years before stepping into my current role as director of professional learning. Here I do create frameworks for impactful learning experiences that transform the mindsets and practices of our school leaders and our teachers, ultimately elevating our student outcomes.
Awesome. Pastor Stapleton, if you'd like to go next.
Hello, everyone. My name is Pastor Sheree Stapleton. I too am the mother of 3 adults. Can I say that with a smile on my face? 3 adults. And I too will be having my first grandbaby in December. So I wanted to say that out loud. Sometimes hearing things, it make you think, don't it, y'all? But my purpose for being here tonight is I am the executive director of a nonprofit that I run, which I am the executive director of Mothers of Joy Institute for Parenting and Family Wellness. I founded this organization, and it was birthed out of our water crisis. Knowing here in Flint that we have been through 2 major pandemics. And with that being said, I wrote a book called Positive Parenting for Trauma-Informed Families. And it's geared towards the ACEs model because I'm a master trainer in the ACEs with the Michigan ACEs initiative. I have over 30 years of early childhood experience. I am not a clinician. However, my degree is soon to be in behavioral science. So I'm really excited about being here today because I work with parents on a day-to-day basis in our program. And we gear from those who are experiencing homelessness to those who haven't been impacted by trauma. And Flint has been impacted by a lot of trauma. So thank you for letting me speak today. And I look forward to speaking more with you all.
All right. Mr. Waters, if you would please come. He's coach extraordinaire and teacher. Why don't you just kind of share your experience?
Hey, how are you on tonight? My name is William Waters. I am a high school teacher at this time, but I've taught K through 12, been in education for 32 years. I've coached wrestling, football, track, and so I've had a lot of experience with young people. I really enjoyed it. It's a passion of mine. I teach currently in an urban school. It wasn't urban at first, but now it's an urban school, and I see the challenges that our students face on a daily basis. And I know the importance of parental and school partnership in helping our students to succeed. And so that's what I want to elaborate on a little bit more on tonight.
All right. And Trent Mosley.
Thank you, Kareem. Trent Mosley. I started my career off in Buena Vista as a teacher, then transitioned to Saginaw as an administrator, and now I reside in Cleveland, Ohio I work for the Cleveland Metropolitan School District, 36,000 students as the chief of equity and culture. So I've had opportunity to see from various lenses of the educational landscape and where it is that support needs to be provided in regards to the families, making sure that they have all the resources and support they need to support their children.
Awesome. And certainly not least, but I wanted to save her for last. And that's because I have a lifelong history with this next young lady since she was a young lady, and now she is doing amazing things with a family of her own. Dr. Danielle Keaton, if you would please just kind of share yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Danielle Roberson Keaton. I am a mother of two. I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. I am from Saginaw, Michigan, originally. Here in Raleigh, North Carolina, I am practicing as a physician in adult and child and adolescent psychiatry. So typically, I see children as well as adults in a psychiatric emergency or a crisis, but I'm hoping that I can be helpful here tonight in trying to just clear some things up and making awareness or everyone aware of those things that can be impacting our youth before I see them in a crisis or in a psychiatric emergency.
Awesome. Thank you so very much. This is such an amazing group of panelists. I'm excited to start the conversation. We're going to jump right in. And I want to focus this next question. I'm actually going to direct it to Dr. Mosley, Dr. Watson, and Mr. Will Waters, because we're going to be talking about parental engagement and creating an atmosphere or a culture of educational success in the home. Well, research has shown that the more a parent is engaged, the greater the positive impact that happens with that child. For many of our young people, as we talk about urban school districts, what recommendations would you have for parents that want to be actively involved in creating a culture of learning at home and school? That's the first part. Then the second part is, how do we do this? How is it done? So either of you that I've just pointed out there, go ahead and feel free to jump in.
So I have several recommendations. First is establish a consistent routine for homework and study. I think setting aside a specific time and place for these activities each day is going to be crucial. This will help kids just in general develop good study habits. And then elaborate a little bit more. I think second, communicating regularly with both teachers and administrators. That is a crucial aspect of making that connection to support the kids. Attend parent-teacher conferences, respond to messages, and don't hesitate to reach out with questions with administrators. And then one that I think that's near and dear to my heart as a former administrator is knowing when the principal, your child's principals are visiting classrooms. That's the most important aspect where the administrators should be spending their time, so they can make sure that strong instructional practices are being implemented, where they can provide support to teachers, so that way your children are receiving the best education possible.
Yeah, I wanted to agree with Mr. Mobley when he said creating that environment for education at home. It's very important. Establishing that in the home first. If you establish that in the home and you make that a priority in your children's life, then you're going to have better results with your children because they're getting it at home first. And so creating that time for them to do homework and even having them put their electronic devices away for a certain amount of time, where they can't use it. And if they're not doing homework, have them read a book or get them interested in other things that will help them to become more intellectual.
Thank you. And I just want to add a couple of points because Trent Mosley and Mr. Waters made some excellent points. I would just say for parents to actually model that learning attitude as well. A lot of times how parents view school, how parents view teachers and interactions really does impact the way that students come and their attentiveness to learn, their ability to be able to conflict manage and to want to engage in their learning and with their peers and their classroom teacher. So it's going to be critical that parents model that. How do you have those conversations? How do you ask questions in school when you are concerned about something or having an issue? How do you navigate dealing with your teachers, maybe if you feel like you're not being treated fairly on all of those types of things, and just actually making sure that you are taking time to model for your children and to have those discussions. And that would be the only additional thing that I would add. I think we've given some great tips so far.
Awesome. I want to continue with you, Dr. Watson, if I could. As we talk about engagement and the engagement, the importance of engagement toward the educational health of a child, what are some specific goals, maybe targets that should be set? Is this something that happens organically, or is this something that we see only taking place at parent-teacher conference when there's a need for discipline or grades are behind? How should a parent begin engaging with a teacher to make sure that there's some specific goals and target to understand what's expected of that child so that they can continue that learning process at home?
Yes, I would say first and foremost, as parents, we need to understand that we are our child's best educator. We are their initial educator as a parent. They start learning way before they enter into a organized classroom situation. So when you understand that you are their primary educator, you think through the lens of how do I see school as supporting the education of my child? So what we do is practically is making sure that we go into that environment, checking that environment out, spending time interviewing your teacher, your child's teacher, to get to know that teacher, get to know how they think, how they operate, so that when your child comes home, you can have those conversations. Go to the school and find out what are the expectations in that classroom. Find out the curriculum. What are the standards for that grade level? And then find out what are some resources that you can have at home to further support your child's learning. Also, it's important, I think, to get a calendar of when can you expect certain communications, when our report cards due, when our parent-teacher conferences, because a lot of times as parents, we're really busy and our schedules are full. And I just think it's critical that we prioritize that, again, as the primary educator of our children. And I would say, don't wait till parent-teacher conference to go up there and to have these conversations, and initiate them and spend time meeting the principal. Come up on your days off or when you have some time on a lunch break or whatever, just to walk around to get to know the school and the environment and the classroom that your child is in. That is so critical because parents, teachers do pay attention to those that are engaged. And I would say engaged outside of the structured engaged time, such as parent-teacher conferences or open house nights. But on those other times where you can really see the day-to-day.
Awesome. Thank you so very much. Mr. Waters, I'm going to come to you with the next one. You spend a great deal. You've been a teacher for a very long time. As an advocate, in addition to the things that I do as a pastor, I am an advocate for students in education, STEM education, mathematics, and leadership. In the classroom, as you work with parents, oftentimes many of the issues that are being addressed are addressed in a parent-teacher conference. Dr. Watson made a very strong point in saying, really, that the squeaky wheel gets the oil. The parent that is most engaged often gets the attention and the respect, I'll say, of that teacher. As a teacher who has been in the classroom for a very long time, what are some of the things that, as a teacher, you would hope that a parent would engage you as the teacher for their youth?
Well, first of all, my hope is that the parent is concerned about their child's education, because in many instances that's not the case. And I hate to say that, but I see that where kids their parents are not involved, and I've seen that in sports as well. As I have coached teams, and so it's important that that parent connects with that teacher to find out, how their student is doing. One of the things at the high school level, I don't know about the elementary level, but we send out weekly progress reports. In my school district, we're required to communicate with parents twice a week, just to let them know what's going on with their children. And I found this is that the parents that are engaged, the students are usually more engaged in learning. And then teachers tend to give kids more respect whose parents are engaged. You usually see that, when a parent is engaged and maybe a kid didn't turn in an assignment or whatever. If a parent asks, can the student turn in an assignment? Many times the teacher will go ahead and let them do that because of the relationship that they have with that parent. Whereas if it's a student who a parent didn't say anything, maybe the teacher won't let them turn that assignment in at all. So that partnership with the home is so very important, because it enhances the child's education, because there's a connection. That child knows that the parent knows the teacher knows that the child knows that he's engaged or she's engaged, and so there's more accountability for those students, and so it usually benefits that child when that relationship is strong like that.
Wow, thank you guys so much. Before we move to the next, this is kind of stirring up some thoughts in my mind. And I'm thinking, if there is a parent that's listening, how can we help them? You all represent a wide variety of individuals that are a part of the educational process. And I would love for one or two of you to respond to this next question. It's not directed to any particular individual, but what are some of the greatest mistakes? What are some of the greatest mistakes that you see parents make at the beginning of the educational year, that if you wish you could coach them onto something different, you would do so? What are some of those key things that you think parents miss out on? And it may just be due to awareness, not knowing that these things are important. Let's share. What are some of the things that we wish our parents would do at the beginning of the year?
I'll jump in. It's so much of what everyone has said, right? A lot of times we assume that people know, and we know that people will be destroyed for a lack of knowledge. So parents aren't given a manual. They are given a lot of what they should do and what we expect them to do. What I believe is that if we encourage them and help them to understand what their role is and how important it is at the beginning, then as they go along, they'll feel more comfortable and confident in doing it. Making mistakes is a hard thing to handle. And when you're a parent, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. But sometimes we don't give people grace because of the things they may be going through in their life. Someone may lose their housing and they're focused on that, and they're trying to make sure their child has somewhere to live more than trying to focus on their education. So, not trying to be hard about that, but that's a real thing, and that's something that they have to deal with. So I believe that if we give people grace in the beginning, give them insight on ways to communicate, because a lot of it is how we communicate with one another. If somebody feels slighted by someone because they may have talked to them a certain way, they don't want to come back and talk to you, because now when I come there, I don't feel like you respect me or that I'm valuable in this space. We even have to make people who are hard to deal with feel welcome in spaces, because we're dealing with their children, and we're dealing with the aspects of what comes from their family to school. So that's my insight.
I
I
agree with
think I
what
would like
Pastor
to answer
Sharice
that one. I would like to
said.
answer that one. I think having them understand the power of their voice, that their voice matters. I think a lot of times when um, parents are dealing with administrators, teachers, principals, sometimes they feel as if they're not heard. And I and for me, I hope that they would be able to understand in the beginning when that child get ready to start school that they have a voice into their child's education. They have a voice into the changes that may go on within that school system, and they can use their voice. And so I think that would be for me to empower the parents to really pull on them and let them know how valuable they are, whether they make mistakes or not, because we all made them. But also just to know that in their voice, they can bring change, not only change for them, but change for their children.
And not only voice and communication, but at the base of this is relationships. And just sticking with the theme of communications, families don't always know the questions, especially when you're talking about the educational jargon that takes place. Don't always know the right questions to ask. One of the things that we did some years ago in the Cleveland School District was that because we knew that that was a struggle, we actually built out a framework of the right questions that parents could hold us accountable to, that they can go right into that playbook and say, hey, Trent, Mr. Mosley, I need to understand how are you going to be evaluating instruction? How are you, when can we meet about the assessments of my child and go over the results? It was literally a drill down of not us asking them, but empowering the parents with the right questions to ask us. And I just think that when we make it easier for families to communicate in our language, it makes it easier for them to support their children.
Wow, I think that's so powerful. And you guys touched on some things that, because we're talking about a partnership for educational success. And so just as I asked that question for the parents, and we're coming to you, Dr. Keaton, so get ready. As we asked about this educational success, what I want to also ask is, what are some things that schools can do? Understanding some of the challenges that were outlined here, understanding that we are all fallible and make mistakes, understanding that a lot of parents are entering into an educational system where they may not have a number of educational successes. So they're limited in understanding how to successfully matriculate through these processes. What are some of the things that schools can do to be more inviting to a parent who's interested in their child being successful, but maybe a bit fearful about the process and knowing who to contact? And I'm going to throw that back to you, Mr. Mosley, because we miss you here in Michigan, and we're sad that we lost you, but I'm sure you're doing great work wherever you are.
Thank you, Kareem. So some of the things that we've done, I'm speaking from as a former administrator, is to purposely reach out to families. In fact, let me give you some examples. So there used to be a security guard that we had, Greg and Mitch Barlow. We would actually go out and meet with the families, go to their homes, introduce ourselves. There's three of us, so they know who we were. So that when we built that relationship, when we called, they pick up the phone immediately. And that it's not a threat. It's not we're calling to tell you something about your child that's bad, but something that we want to have an engaging conversation with you, support your son or daughter. When we did that, we opened up that lens, and it wasn't just the three of us. It was actually the whole team that would go out and do this. So to answer your question directly, it's about extending yourself first, that you are open, not waiting for the families to come to you, but going to them in the spaces that they occupy, whether it's at church picnics, whether it's not at the grocery store. Start the conversation, because the sooner that you build those relationships, the easier it is that it makes it for that journey for that child.
Awesome. I thank you so much for that. That was powerful. The school has to be the first to engage. We're living in a different time where the educational success is not just it's not in the parents sometimes. It's even not even in their wheelhouse to desire. So I appreciate your response there. Dr. Keaton, we want to turn over to you. I want to talk because we understand we're living in a day now where there are a lot of kids that are coming with emotional deficits. Many kids are attending schools with IEPs, individual educational plans. As we look at the current state of where we are, what are some of the signs of learning and behavioral conditions associated with learning disabilities? And then I will also want to ask this question: are there accommodations, teaching, learning strategies that should be implemented in these cases so that we can notify parents if they believe that their child may fall into that category?
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to piggyback off of the last question to answer this one, because I think the biggest thing that I notice with parents, and more so in like our outpatient setting when they're bringing their child in for an evaluation, a lot of parents are not aware of the learning plans that are available to them. So IEPs and 504s. So IEPs are usually kind of a hard and difficult process, and teachers and schools are legally responsible for carrying out this plan. However, a parent has the right to ask for psychoeducational testing for their child. So as a parent, I would say, hey, if you have any concern about your child's learning or them being slow reading and or math, or just there's something about their learning that you're like, I think something's going on, then you have the right to ask for that. And the school is responsible to respond to you in a certain amount of time. So they may not do the IEP, but they have to respond to you. And so we have a lot of tools, and there is a like website, a national website that you can look at and really get someone to coach you through getting resources for your child. And IEPs are given to a special population, so they do have to show that their testing and their skills are behind where they should be to get that. But a 504 plan can almost be given to any child with almost any kind of disorder. So I give it to ADHD. We give it to, oh, you broke your leg, so you need special accommodations for this period of time. So that any diagnosis can almost qualify. And it is a sheet of paper, and it takes me 15 minutes to fill out. And so any PCP or regular pediatrician can fill out this form. So your child will have access to extra time to take a test, or some assignment forgiveness for them missing school, or someone who's an anxious learner. So because they're so anxious and they're worried about doing such a good job that it takes them longer to answer a test, or they see other children answering in class, so they're silent. So there's certain things that teachers can do to accommodate children who are struggling in those ways. So I really want to encourage parents to ask for those things, because it starts with you asking, and then the teacher knows like, oh, okay, they're paying attention. We need to make sure that their child has what they need to be able to be successful.
Thank you so much. I want to make sure that we're being clear with the conversation, because if a parent walks in, there is a lingo and a jargon that you educational folks use that the rest of the world has no clue. And I threw that out there: IEP, individual education plan, and Dr. Keaton also mentioned a 504 plan, which the IEP is the individual plan for the student, but the 504 is a plan that a student. What accommodations will that school provide for that student? Will it be learning? Will it be tablets? Will it be audiobooks? What is a school willing to provide to make sure that equity is brought into the educational process? Oftentimes we think that fair means equitable, and that's not the case. But what are things that we're able to employ so that each student is able to have the same level of education? Angela Hook, I want to ask you that very similar question that we asked Dr. Keaton. And I want to just say, how important is it for a parent who is noticing these small things, maybe an inability to pay attention, an inability to stay focused, not completing homework or finding homework that is crumbled up and just kind of thrown in the bag, and we often think they just don't want to do it. How important is it to have our young people tested to find out if they fall on the spectrum, or they are part of one of these categories that we're talking about right now?
I think it's very important. I'm going to talk from a clinical perspective. I think when we are using terminology, we have to really be able to break it down to the parent, because the first thing that they would think is, if you say, I think that your child may have a problem with ADHD, the first thing they're going to think is, I don't want my child on medication. So I think that we have to educate the parent first. And I'm going to give you a small example of what I mean by that. I had started working with a student. He had been in the school district for about 3 years. He was recommended to me as a clinician because they were talking about he had behavioral issues, that he wouldn't sit still, and so many other different things that could have been easily diagnosed as ADHD. But when I sat down with the student and I began to get more information from him, they labeled him as being angry and aggressive. He began to share with me in regards to what was going with him in the classroom, because I started asking questions. Okay, tell me why you're angry. What's causing you to be angry? And through the process of that, we discovered that he had inattentive ADHD. And through that, we end up getting him meeting with the administration, meeting with, we had the social worker in there. We also had another counselor in there, and we end up getting him accommodations. And what those accommodations did for him was basically is to give him additional time on test taking. Also, we were able to get him a tutorer, which sat down with him and was kind of walking him through that process. And through that process, his behavior just changed immediately. And the behavior changed because he was angry. Nobody was able to understand him because as he tried to communicate it, teachers didn't understand. They labeled him as something he wasn't. Parent was angry because she didn't feel like she was being heard. And as I sat down with that student, we began to discover some things about what was going on with him. The student began to excel, immediately after we got those accommodations. So I think language is very important when we're talking with parents, because they don't understand what we call ADHD. They don't understand when you tell them that you want their child to be on with special accommodations. The first thing they're thinking in their mind is something is wrong with my child. And so I think it's very important that we support them in a different way. And also we have that relationship with them. So they know that we have their best interests at heart, that we're just not labeling their child.
Thank you so very much. Dr. Watson, how do we educate our parents and help them become more informed? Like Angela was saying, she was saying, parents don't want their kids to be labeled. Kids don't want to walk around with a stigma. We're concerned about lifelong issues and how people, when we were kids growing up, kids can be cruel. And having labels sometimes can be a problematic process for kids going through college. What are some things that we can do to educate our parents on the importance of knowing if their child has an educational deficit in terms of their ability to learn, and how they can share that information with the child so that child does not feel like a victim or under circumstances, but are able to use that as a way to empower themselves as they learn and move towards excellence?
Well, I found one of the things that we can do is just, again, I say mindset is so critical. We have to look at when kids have challenges, not as deficits, but as differences. And to see this child as the able to learn, that they have the ability to be successful, they just do it and learn it in a different way. And so when you view it from that lens, then you're saying, then what can be done in the room, in the classroom, also the other support services within the school building that can support this student in a way that connects with the way that they learn best. How do we scaffold the learning, not dumb down, not eliminate standards and say, well, this kid can't, so we're not even going to expect them to be able to do this. It's they can do it. And here's how we're going to be strategic and intentional about providing opportunities for them to learn and be successful. Again, bringing parents in as partners, because it does take a village. That's a lot on a teacher. I remember being a classroom teacher, and you have 25, 30 students, and they're all very unique and they all have different needs. And for one person to think that they can be the answer to every student and address every need by themselves, they can't do it. So if a teacher is wise, again, they will build those partnerships, as everyone on the panel has been talking about, and empower the parent, like I say, the initial and key educator in that child's life, of ways that they can support. But I would see it as different. They learn different. It's not a deficit, it's a difference.
Dr. Tina, that answer I took a big smile on it, because I'm so thankful for how you laid that out there, because we all have to understand. I run into so many kids who were told that they were stupid, or they couldn't get it, or they didn't understand, and you're slow. And the fact of the matter is, our children can learn, our children must learn, and our children will learn. But it requires us as the adults in the room to take the added steps to make sure that that educational process functions in a way that is able to tier that step, one step at a time, toward that learning education. Greatly appreciate your answer. All right, I want to turn the tide just a little bit, and I'm going to come to you, Dr. Keaton and Sharice Stapleton, on this one. There are an increase of environmental, behavioral, emotional, and psychological factors such as bullying, vaping, depression, drugs, loan. We could go on and on talking about all of the things that our kids face today. Could you help explain to us what recommendation and resources should a school provide to students when they report these types of concerns? How can you help students and parents recognize the signs and empower them? I love that, parent empowerment. Empower the parents to take the next steps. What can we do? And I want to come to you first, Dr. Keaton.
This is a loaded question, so I don't know how I'm going to answer it in a few minutes. But the biggest thing that I think that would be helpful to know is that kids are really struggling, and it's not just this community or that community. Like, our ED is full. As soon as school started, we had an influx of kids that could not just handle the stress. And so when we're talking about emotional needs and psychological needs and the environmental stressors like bullying and social media, as well as just challenges in their school, can be extremely difficult for kids to manage. And so I like to put it in a perspective of, like, they've only lived so many years. So if you're in middle school, you're adolescent age. So you've only been on this earth and your world is extremely small. So your school friends, your teachers, your family, that's it. So everything that is in that circle that is out of or in disarray can really impact your ability to learn. So as parents, we have to ask our kids, how was your day? Tell me the good thing about your day. Tell me the bad thing or the worst part of your day. Tell me something interesting that happened. And if you start that conversation early, then it doesn't always happen when they're in trouble or when something bad happens. So I like to talk about how we, try to have family meals. So that's the time for everybody to put the screens away, turn the TV off, and just talk about your day. So then when a kid is in crisis, they can come to you because they're used to having that communication with you. There's so many things that's happening, and we need to be able to know our children and know that we can talk to them when they are struggling. So having that relationship just in general really helps to open that communication.
All right. Thank you. That is so good. So very good. So I'm going to continue with that question. How can we help parents recognize those behaviors that are not just the child acting out, but behaviors that may be a deeper rooted emotional issue. And I want to put that out there to any of the individuals in our panel. What are some of the signs that maybe are noticeable that there's a problem that may not necessarily be your child's educational, your ability to learn, but there may be some actual things in their social environment that are taking place? What are some signs?
I can start it off in terms of, because this is, you know, a lot of what we see. And when we're trying to figure out, does a child really need help? We're looking for signs of mood changes. So behavioral changes like Angela Hook was talking about, when a kid is angry and that's not their baseline or that's not normal for them, you should be asking questions. When a child is not sleeping well, that can be impacting their mood. We're looking for their ability or change in concentration. Their appetite may change. The crowd that they're hanging out with may change. And that could be a sign that, hey, something happened with their peer group. And again, all these things can lead to them being depressed, them being anxious, them having, you know, worse and thoughts about wanting to hurt themselves. So these are all things that I think is important to kind of like pay attention to. And it can be a subtle change, but when we look at the pattern of behavior and how it persists over time, then you're kind of saying, hey, I think something is going on and we need to reach out for help.
Mr. Waters, I want to direct the same question to you, because I know that your coach was an amazing man in your life, and I have seen personally witnessed your impact on young men, and as a coach and as a teacher. When you work with these young men, are there certain things that come to mind that are very prevalent in terms of the social stresses that our young people are facing that you deal with more often than others? You're muted, sir.
I coach middle school wrestling, and so these many of the kids that I get that are attracted to that sport are kind of rough around the edges, and many of them have behavioral problems. And I work with I'm not in their school, so I work with the principal at that school to monitor their grades and so forth, to try to make sure that I help keep them on pace. But yeah, I do find a lot of behavioral problems, and many of them don't have their fathers in their lives. And so I understand the significance of me being a male in their life and bringing discipline and structure into their lives. And so I see the difference from when they first start the season with me to 7 or 8 weeks later, the results that I see from them because of the discipline and the structure and the love. Kids are looking for love, you know, that they're looking for love. And so we as educators, I know elementary teachers, they love on their kids and the kids love on them. But it should be the same thing at the high school level, at the middle school level. When teachers love on the students and show them attention and affirm them, a lot of students are looking for affirmation from an adult. And when they get that affirmation from an adult, you'd be surprised how they would behave in one class and they behave totally different in your class because of the relationship that you have with them.
Wow, thank you so very much. Absolutely, go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to speak to that, especially when we're talking about friend groups. And the reason why I say that is because 90% of my students that come to me, whether it be for vaping, behavioral problems, it's because of friend groups. They run into not feeling like they fit in. And I'm not just talking about young women. I'm talking about the males as well. They deal with the fact of not being able to fit in. And they get around, sometimes they get around students that may be accepting of them, and it may not always be the right student. And so a lot of times when I'm dealing with students, just trying to get them to understand the importance of selecting friend groups. And not only that, making sure when they are feeling like they're being bullied, use your voice. Go to that principal. Let that principal know. One experience that I had that I was very drawn back by, we had a student that came into my office. She had been bullied probably for the last 3 years by not one student. She was being bullied like 20 students. So I sat down with the administrator of the school system, and what he said to her was, we all will experience that, but you have to, in so many words, he was telling her, you have to learn how to turn that off. And I think that we have to be careful of when children are coming to us, is not to try to use those traditional messages. Just turn it off. Well, it's not that easy. You just can't turn it off. You know, when we were growing up, they would say, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words never hurt me. Words are destroying our children. And so we have to be sensitive to the fact, and we have to also advocate for our children when they come to us as an administrator, as a clinician, as a principal. When they are saying to us, I'm being bullied, we have a responsibility and accountability to get in there and do something. And many times we find that that is not happening within the school system.
Okay, I need to follow up that question, Angela, because you opened up a whole can of worms there. When we have these instances in school, and I'm hearing, I've heard from different youth in different districts that these things have been going on, and parents are none the wiser. What should a parent do if they find out that their child has been bullied over several months, and their child finally comes home and lets them know that this has been going on, and they've told their teacher, they've been to the office and talked with the principal, and the acts are still taking place? What should a parent do?
I always voice to my parents, if the principal or the teacher is not hearing you, go above them.
Mhm.
I always try to advocate for them to say, go through the right channels. But if those right channels are not doing anything, now you have a voice to go above them, because now it's in the protection of your child. Your child is should be the best interest of that child is to advocate.
Awesome. Thank you so very much. I want to turn a little bit towards policy. There's been so many policies with everything that's taken place, and we'll get into a deeper conversation with this, but we've seen the issues of guns in schools and policy changes. We've seen backpacks. Yes, you can have backpacks. No, you can't have backpacks. All backpacks have to be clear, and parents are in a frenzy trying to keep up with a number of the changes as schools are trying to do what is best, I would imagine, for student safety. Cell phone policies, drugs, security issues. These are all hot topics facing urban school districts. Dr. Mosley, how has Cleveland Metropolitan School District addressed these topics, and what are the benefits for parents to help enforce these changes? I know it may be difficult, but what are some of the benefits that parents may experience by helping to enforce these changes?
Yes, that's a great question. So our journey started with our Governor, Mike DeWine. So he instituted a policy that all schools had to come up with a framework to address cell phone policies. We did that. So now we have what's called the Yonder Bags. Every school within the district, and we have 95 schools, they have a practice in place where the Yonder Bags are incorporated. Administrators designate an individual to retrieve them at the point of entry where security is at. And I have to tell you, the parents, because of the way we rolled it out, the communication from how we were designing it and keeping them informed as we went through it, and how it would be implemented, they've been on board. We've seen already. We just had a safety and security report to the mayor last weekend. The serious incidents, especially related, and I would put cell phones related to, because a lot of things arise just from doing those videos and putting them out in that space. We cut that in half. So the we've had very minimal issues. The parents have been receptive, students have been receptive. Again, I said we had 95 schools, so around safety and security, every school has a safety and security officer along with a check-in point where you have to be buzzed into the building, whether or not you're a parent, administrator, everybody has to be buzzed in, or if you have a key fobs, such as myself, we scan in, but it's also tracked. One of the things that we changed around safety and security, we wanted to shine a different lens on, because you heard me say that for me it's about relationships, and because safety and security is one of the first point of contacts at the very beginning, how we start them off usually ends up how their day goes. And so we made a concerted effort with our safety and security to begin asking students about how are their day going, building those relationships, so that way they start off, and it's made a huge difference just in our change in how it is that we review our roles as safety and security officers.
Wow. Okay, so I got to follow that question up, and I want to ask you this, Mr. Mosley. You mentioned that there was great success in terms of how the parents bought into that process because of the method in which you guys rolled out those policies.
Yeah.
I want to talk, could you share with us some of those strategic plans or the policies on your rollout strategy?
Yeah, so we have a communication department. So we do what's called, we call it the RAPID protocol. Another one of those is a business education term where you have a recommender, approver, agreeer, producer, inputter, and decider. And so all these teams have, this particular RAPID team has everybody that touches cell phones from every department. And so one of those inputters was the communications department. When they came in, they said, okay, we need to make sure that we let families know what we're doing and why we're doing it. So communication went out about that. Then constantly keeping them up to date on social media, different ways in which they'll get their information so that way they are fully aware. Administrators offered a time to answer questions regarding this implementation of the cell phone policy. What does it mean for if I have an emergency that I need to get in contact with my children? We were able to explain that every classroom has a phone in it that they can reach you. They can, if they're in the hallway, they can go to the office. We made sure that there is a point in which children can reach their parents.
That's good. I want to turn this next question to Pastor Stapleton and Dr. Keaton. There has been a rise in the subject concerning the effects of adverse trauma on children. Let's explain what that means, and then also what is the impact on a child's learning and their development as it relates to these traumas.
Well, from my lens, when we talk about trauma, people, when you hear the word trauma, you think of something impacting you, like if you hit your elbow or if you're in an accident. But we know that trauma can be a lot of different things. It can be witnessing a violent act. It could be being in the wrong place at the wrong time. And so once we get people to understand that trauma is multiple things, that's one of the ways that we can help them to understand it. Being a person who has studied the adverse childhood experience, it plays a factor in how people respond to people who are experiencing trauma. Especially, I deal with parents most of all. So parents, when they're dealing with their children and they're told that, you can't hit them, or things that we did when our children were younger, and things that our parents did when they were younger, right? We have to be reminded that the world has changed, and you can't hit somebody into submission, because that's more or less what people are trying to do, is to make someone do something. And how do you teach someone or guide someone if you're not doing it in love? I wanted to kind of go back because there was a lot of things I was trying to jump in on, but I was I was being patient.
Go ahead.
I was being patient. But when we talk about those the family structure, the what where children come from. If that relationship is misconstrued and there's things happening there, there is harder for them to go to school and be productive because where their basis is not strong. If parents are intentional about the relationships that they have with their children, and it goes back to that we've been saying it from the beginning, that we are to be engaged, right? That we are the example, right? A lot of times people don't want to be the example because that take a lot of work and it's a lot that goes into that. But when you have children, you have to make the decision that this person is now your priority. And since they're your priority, you have to do the things that govern them to do what's necessary. But if you're a parent and you've never had those things shown to you, and if you're a parent and you've never knew that that was really important, that's not going to be in your scope of influence unless you're around other people and you're seeing some things differently. We were talking about like the educational system and pertaining to the IEPs. When we start to normalize disabilities, and that's just like saying someone has high blood pressure or diabetes. It's the same thing. You take medication for it, you change your diet for it. When a child has a hiccup in their education, we do what's necessary so that they can learn. If they need to turn in an assignment and do a video, and that's the best way that they do it, we need to offer those things so that they can be successful. The educational system is kind of backwards. It makes things extremely hard for no reason. I'm in college, y'all, so I'm kind of going through that too. And and we do things like, give people too much stuff to study at one time. I understand we got to have math, English, all of that, but can we have 2 on Monday, 2 on Tuesday, and 2 on Thursday? So we ain't got everyone every day. That's a lot for me. And so if you bring that home to a parent, and that parent is looking at this child's work, the parent frustrated, the child frustrated, the dog, everybody frustrated because it's just so much. And when a thing gets to be overwhelming, you'll just put it to the side rather than deal with it. Now, back to what Miss Angela said with those who are in higher ranking authority, like administrators and that. And then I'm going to get off of this thing that I'm on. Those particular people have to be able to and I'm with you, Mr. Mosley, those individuals have to be able to sit in a room with a parent that knows nothing and make them feel like they are the most important thing in the room, that they are amazing. Because what happens is they already feel like there's no place for them, and they are the most important person to their children until a teacher comes in and the child come home and say, Miss Marie said, no, Miss Marie said not, and you not the most important person no more. So I hope I hit everyone that I wanted to hit, because this thing is serious, y'all. It's bigger than these boxes that we're in, because at the end of the day, our children are suffering in silence because some of them don't have homes to go to talk to. So when they come to school, you might be the only person that they can give their issue to. But if you like, you know what, this is happening, and you need to cut it out, now you ain't the person. So now they don't have home, they don't have school. So who else they go to? They go to them wayward friends that's gonna tell them all of the dumb stuff that we don't want them to know, and that's where they're going to go. So we have to choose who we're going to be in these young people's lives. And Mr. Watson, thank you for, am I saying these names right? I can't really see these boxes, but Waters. Yep. Thank you for being mentors to young men, because that right there is so important right now. Those who don't have fathers, they look up to men. And the more that they see, the better that they'll do, right? Because they want to prove to you that I can do this stuff. And that's true with women too. It's girls, they see us and they like, oh, I like her shoes, or oh, I like her hair. And we ain't thinking about none of that. We thinking about what they ain't doing and how they should be. But we just need to sit and have form a relationship with them. I'm done, y'all. That's it. That's all I got. I
think
missed
that
some points and I needed to connect the dots. Thank
no,
you.
and I want to allow the others that are there. Are there points, or would you like to jump in on and respond to the questions that have been in place? I don't want anybody to leave here feeling like there's something left that they need to say.
Because I don't want to be bullied in this box.
Yeah, I do want to respond to your question when you talked about adverse trauma. And I think it's very important as clinicians, just adults in general, that when we are coming in contact with our students, we don't know what they're coming out of. And if we're not careful with how we say things to them, it can be trauma responses. And so if a child has dealt with emotional or mental or physical abuse in their home, and then they come into the classroom and a teacher or an administrator may say something that triggered what they heard at home, now they're reacting out of a trauma response versus reacting out of who they are as a person. And so I try to, when I'm going into the school system, is try to, even if I'm not having a good day, I try to carry myself in a way to where I'm smiling. I'm making a child feel important, because we don't know what they may have experienced even coming into the doors of the school system. And so when we are sitting down with parents and students, reminding ourselves, we do not know the history of this parent, of this child. And so we want to be able to honor and respect them the same way we want that coming from them. And so the adverse trauma, a lot of times, as she said, adverse childhood experiences is things that they have experienced from the time they were little growing up. And the same thing with that parent. If that parent have not had counseling or have not dealt with the trauma in their childhood, guess what? They're bringing it into your meetings when you're sitting down with them. They're bringing it into the parent conference, because anything that we say is going to trigger them, which we call trauma responses, and they're going to blow up or say something. And the first thing that we'll say is, what's wrong with that parent? And so just being sensitive as a parent, understanding that we have single parents, we have blended family parents, we have, mother and father. We have all different type of family units, but it doesn't make one better than the other. You have a single mom that may have to go to work every day. I think that we have to be strategic in how we even invite them into our times with planning and having parent-teacher conferences, because they are the ones that's being singled out. And they have to wear this hat where they're trying to do everything. They may not be able to show up to a football game. It doesn't mean they're not an engaged parent, but we have to find ways for them to be engaged. So that's what I want to leave this with.
Dr. Watson, is there something you want to share?
Yeah, I would love to just kind of close out with a couple of points of just, I think what we're all saying is we need to humanize education. We need to understand that we are educating people, and the parents are humans, right? And so they come with strengths, they come with fears, they come with ways that they can, opportunities to engage, they come with reservations, they come with past histories, all of those things. So relationship, as we talked earlier and throughout this time together, relationship and communication is key. So I feel like as an education community, one of the things that I did as a classroom teacher, one of the things that I stressed as the induction program coordinator, supporting new teachers, and what I'm doing now as the director of professional learning, making sure that we provide opportunities for our staff, for our leaders to understand and learn, first and foremost, that parents are a valuable resource. We have to shift that mindset. Then we have to think about, how are we being culturally affirming in our practices? How are we removing those barriers? We got to think about language. At least in my district, we have students and families that don't speak English language and aren't able to comprehend it as well as others, right? That is not their first language. So are we providing opportunities and interpreters and for our parents so that we can actually have meaningful conversations, that we can speak and communicate in a way that they understand? Are we taking the opportunity, I stress this, to get to know your community? What types of mode of communications are you using? Even with our English speaking people, a lot of times teachers will say, I emailed. Well, parents a lot of times don't have time to check an email. So we may have to text, we may have to call, we may have to do it at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, 6 in the morning, outside of those contractual times. But again, how are we communicating? Are we also communicating without trying to be intimidating, using those the educational lingo and those jargons and all of those acronyms that we use? We need to make sure we're breaking it down in a way that parents understand. They are intelligent. They're just not, their education is not their profession, right? So they can understand it. So let's communicate in a way that they can understand, providing time and space for them to ask questions and to voice their concerns. Parents work. Most of our parents work 2 and 3 jobs. I remember when I started teaching and I taught in the inner city of Grand Rapids, and I had a mindset, and I felt, now I feel horrible about it, but I had this mindset of, my parents just don't care, or they're trifling, or they are not involved. And the reality was, when I took the time to get to know my parents, they were working 2 and 3 jobs. They're raising 2, 3, 4 kids by themselves and taking care of a parent and taking care of other situations that they have to take care of. And they're trying to do it all by themselves. They're hardworking, and they want the same thing that any and other parent want. They want what's best for their child. And a lot of times they don't know how to communicate that. So we got to take the time to really create the space and to hear them, not just hear what they're saying, but hear them. Assume the best, connect with them, and have them connect with other parents. There are some parents that have figured it out, how they work well with schools, how to conflict manage, how to resolve issues, how to engage a teacher, how to ask a question. Connect them with other parents that know how to do that, so that way they can build a sense of advocacy and agency within their parent community, and folks can help each other because it takes a village.
Thank you so much. I want to interject right there. We have come to the conclusion of our time. I see Evangelist Roberson is back here letting me know to reel it in. But I do want to say this has been an amazing conversation with all of you. Angela Hook, you said something that I'm going to be taking home with me. So many times we traumatize the traumatized when we bring our bad day into a situation. And when you were talking, I said we should get a t-shirt for everyone to wear. Don't bring your bad day to the doorsteps of my new day, because we need to be there for the kids to make sure that they are having an environment where they can learn. Thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity to be with you all as your moderator. I'm going to turn it back over into the hands of Evangelist Roberson. Take it away.
This has been such an amazing and informative session. So awesome, so insightful and usable. So many good takeaways for parents. I'm going to close by allowing you, the panel, once again, I really do mean 30 seconds or less to give either, whether it's for the parent or for the student, one takeaway. It could be 2 or 3 words that you want them to hold on to, because I want them to take it and put it in their toolbox. I heard some amazing, and relationship was at the top. Consistency and schedules and so many good things, and learning differently. So at this time, to close out, one statement or word or scripture, or what do you want to say as your closing remark to this amazing audience?
I'll start. For me, it's for parents and kids. Be patient, be encouraging, and push for progress, not perfection. Whether a child improves by an inch or a mile, progress is progress. The biggest message is don't quit. You get there when you get there.
Love it. Good. If there is nothing to be said, then I'm going to accept that. Is there anything else?
Okay, I was just waiting to the. I'm
no,
good
there was
wait.
no waiting.
She said, "Go for it."
I made it very clear.
Okay. Just for parents and children to be intentional about the things that you do together as a family, but also for parents to be intentional in their parenting. Do things with an outcome in mind. Just don't be, get up in the morning, go through the motions, do the stuff, but have things set in place so that as you're learning, you're teaching in the process, and it's called utilizing teachable moments. So do that.
Very
and
good.
make that a part of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to say to parents, don't be intimidated by the school system, by the educational process. As teachers and administrators, we're here to help you and to serve you and to help your child be the best that they can be. If there's something that you need assistance with, don't be afraid to talk to the administrators and so forth to get the help that you need. One of the things that I wanted to talk about before was that many of the things that we do with technology now, many of the parents don't know and don't understand. And so they need training to be able to access these technological tools that we're using now. And so there needs to be a collaboration between the school and between parents to teach them so that they can use those things. We have something called Skyward, where parents can check their students' grades every day, but many of the parents don't know how to access that and how to use it. And so there needs to be training. So don't be afraid to ask for help so that you can be better, so that you can help your child.
Very good.
Yeah, I would just like to say briefly, remember that children, according to Psalms 127, are a heritage from the Lord. And so we must attack that child's educational process as it is vitally important. And so I say that because as an advocate for kids, I want the parents to know there is always help. And one thing that I would like to say for those who work in schools or administrators in schools, don't forget to reach out to corporations that are in your community and challenge them on their personal investment in the lives of those young people. Some of the greatest work that we're having happen outside the schools is because we are, as advocates, are going to corporations and saying, what is your investment to the educational success of our youth?
Very good.
Yes, and I would just like to say to the parent and to the student that you matter, you're important, use your voice.
Use your voice. I was hoping you were going to say that. Use your voice. Parents, you have a voice. Any other?
I have something to say. I just wanted to definitely remind parents and children to please reach out for help. Do not wait. Do not be afraid of the stigma of mental health. I can't emphasize that enough. Please ask the questions. Are you safe? Are you sad? Do you have thoughts about not wanting to be alive anymore? Because these are real thoughts that kids have, and they start very, very early and young. And so if we don't ask, we don't know. So please don't forget.
And parents should ask those questions as well to is that what you're also saying?
Yes, teachers, parents, anybody, any contact with a child, that is an opportunity to make sure that they are safe.
Very, very good. Well, I read a quote. George Washington Carver said, "Education is the golden key to unlock the door of freedom." Education is the golden key. So what you are saying tonight, education liberates us. It gives us access. And parents and students, you are valued. It means something to me. And there are so many resources. And this was important to me to be able to give back to our community free. I cannot pay these doctors in the house. I mean, when I start putting there, I was like, oh my God, I can't afford this. When I start just assuming what their salaries, and I think I know in the ballpark because I'm a former educator. And I said, oh my God. And then I got mental health MAs in the house and teachers in the house of 30 plus years. I want the people in our audience to thank our presenters for spending this time to give us this amazing information, because you didn't have to do it. And of course, I'm going to repackage it. I'm going to put it out there because it's important that they be informed and they be aware and to know how and what's available. There is so much available that I can continue to talk about. And Kareem, you did, Pastor Bowen, you did an amazing job. Thank you for those questions and even additional questions that you threw out there. And you guys were so on top of everything. I just love the informative information. So, of course, other school districts or other people are going to say, oh gosh, we got to try that, or they will be calling or texting and saying, hey, we're going to look into a so-and-so school district. So my hat's off to each of you, because such a wonderful and amazing job. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Pastor Kareem, can you just close it out with a short prayer? And that probably won't be on the tape, but why don't you just close us out with a closing prayer, short prayer?
Absolutely. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you today, this evening, for these amazing individuals that have come together to share their life experiences, their wisdom, their understanding of what is necessary to create exceptional opportunities for exceptional youth. We pray that you would touch each and every one of them for the time that they have poured out. We pray that you would fill that void and give them more to pour. You said you give seed to the sower. So, Father God, we pray that you begin returning unto them everything that they've invested on tonight. Yes, thank you for Evangelist Roberson, for the visioning and the visionary. We praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I'm going to end the session. If you could just stay with me 1 minute.